Lois built her whole identity around absolute, suffocating control, weaponizing her family's poverty to justify it, and completely crushing everyone else in the process. But the dark truth is this: Lois Wilkerson is a tragic case study in unresolved generational trauma.
Oh, Mom.
Don't you dare.
And to understand how deep that trauma goes, we first have to look at the terrifying environment that bred it. Starting with a detail most people completely overlook in episode 1. We all know the trope, right? Lois is the angry, screaming sitcom mom. The running joke is that her boys are so chaotic, they drive her literally insane.
It's just too quiet out there. It's driving me crazy.
And the worst part is the show plays it for laughs. So let me walk you through it. When you strip away the quirky transition music and actually look at her environment, what you are watching isn't comedy. You are watching a woman whose nervous system is entirely fried.
What? And you think just because you hide the note, the parent-teacher meeting will just go away?
Why? Honestly, it's the money.
Look, if you want this thing so badly, you pay for it with your own money.
The Wilkerson family isn't just television poor, complaining about a high phone bill for a single episode. They are drowning. They eat expired food. They are constantly one bad week away from complete ruin. And Lois carries the entire psychological weight of that financial terror every single day. She works a soul-crushing, humiliating, dead-end job at the Lucky Aid.
I want this to stay. This has to stay.
She has absolutely zero control over her financial reality, her career, or even her future. So what does she do? She compensates by exercising absolute, tyrannical control over her household. And what kills me is the infamous red dress incident.
Fire? Fire?
If you remember season 1, Lois believes the boys burned the one nice dress she bought for her anniversary, though it's later revealed that her husband, Hal, actually burned it by accident. Now, a normal, strict parent would ground them, maybe take away the TV. But what does Lois do? She locks them in the house and subjects them to literal psychological warfare.
Francis, I'm just gonna tell her I did it. I know it wasn't me, but anything is better than this.
She turns them against each other. She acts like a seasoned interrogator trying to break a prisoner of war. She wants vengeance. Because that dress wasn't just a piece of clothing. It was her one shred of dignity in a life that constantly humiliates her. By destroying it, the boys challenged her authority. But while she uses pure terror to control her sons at home, she uses a much more manipulative tactic to regain her power at work. Which brings us to the ultimate victim of her ego, Craig Feldspar.
You want to go catch a movie or something over lunch? They're playing my best friend's wedding over in electronics.
No, thanks, I don't.
Fine, forget it.
If Lois's screaming is a trauma response, her relationship with Craig is where the manipulation gets genuinely predatory. The show frames Craig as the classic sitcom creep, the weird, pathetic coworker with a massive, unrequited crush on the married female lead.
Oh, please. Special gift for a special lady on a special day.
And as viewers, we're supposed to think Lois just tolerates him out of pity, or maybe just because they're stuck at the Lucky Aid together. But when you actually watch how she operates around him, that's not what's happening at all. He abuses house-sitting privileges to secretly wear her clothes, installs hidden surveillance cameras throughout the Lucky Aid to watch her, and actively tries to sabotage her marriage.
So that makes it okay that Malcolm spent the night sleeping on a booze-soaked mattress in some dark alley?
Any normal person in the real world would call the police and get a restraining order immediately. Lois doesn't. And here's the reality check that completely changes their dynamic. She doesn't just ignore his obsession. She actively weaponizes it. She knows exactly how he feels about her. There are moments where she casually admits she knows he's in love with her. But instead of shutting it down to protect him, or herself, she keeps him right there on the hook. She uses his crush to get favorable shifts.
You can choose not to feel humiliated. They're just trying to break your spirit with the pin and the drug test.
She uses him to cover up with their boss.
God, I am so much better than you.
She even uses him for free labor. Why? Because look at the rest of her life. Her boss humiliates her. Her kids constantly undermine her authority. Her husband is practically another toddler she has to manage.
Lois, I did it! I did it! I actually flew a kite!
Lois is desperate to feel respected. And Craig? Craig is the one person on Earth who worships the ground she walks on. She keeps him around because his obsession is the only thing feeding her ego. It gives her a safe place to exercise total, unquestioned control. But Craig isn't the only man Lois manipulates to maintain her absolute dictatorship. To keep that same level of suffocating control behind closed doors, she needed a very specific type of husband. Look, I know tearing apart Hal and Lois is going to make some people mad. We are conditioned to think they are the ultimate sitcom couple goals because they are so completely obsessed with each other.
Oh, for God's sake. Are you still obsessing about that?
Most people view Hal and Lois as couple goals. But the reality is, their marriage is the most toxic element of the entire series. Because this next part, this is where it gets genuinely disturbing.
Boys, go to your room.
What? What do you mean we're on your side?
I said go!
When you strip away the comedy, what you are actually looking at isn't romance. It is a highly toxic, deeply codependent trauma bond.
Nothing would get done. We'd die of starvation.
I love you.
Hal is a grown man who literally cannot function or make a single life decision without Lois dictating it. The show constantly plays his incompetence for laughs, showing him falling apart the second she leaves the house. But look at what happens when Lois isn't looking. Hal is secretly hoarding massive, destructive habits. He secretly smokes.
Al?
He opens secret credit cards and impulsively blows money on things like renting an illegal steamroller. There is a massive, multi-part episode where Hal is put on trial for corporate fraud, and his only alibi to avoid federal prison is the terrifying fact that he has been skipping work every single Friday for 15 years without telling her.
I haven't shown up for work on a Friday in 15 years.
Why does he hide all of this instead of just communicating with his partner? Because he is fundamentally terrified of his own wife.
Why is the drain still clogged?
And Lois? Honestly, she prefers it this way. She doesn't try to make him an equal partner. She intentionally keeps him infantile. She needs him to be completely paralyzed without her. Because if Hal ever actually stepped up and became a functional, responsible adult, Lois would lose her position as the ultimate, unquestioned dictator of the house.
Not wish you do not even reminisce about those stupid, idiotic death traps. They do not exist.
It's a perfect, sick ecosystem. He gets a strict mother figure to manage his entire life, so he never has to take real responsibility. And she gets a permanent subordinate who will never challenge her rule. But Lois didn't just wake up one day with this terrifying need for absolute control. She inherited it. And to understand the root of her sickness, we have to look at the monster who built her. Discussing the truth about Lois without Grandma Ida is just an incomplete story. Because this is the part that fundamentally changes how you see the entire series. The show presents Ida as the ultimate villain, and honestly, she is. She is relentlessly cruel. She is blatantly prejudiced. There is an actual episode where she sues Lois and Hal over a slip and fall on their front walkway. Not just for a few bucks, but pushing a lawsuit so aggressive it threatens to completely bankrupt the family and cancel their homeowner's insurance. But here is the darkest realization in the entire show. The moment that makes every single episode infinitely more tragic. Lois spent her entire life absolutely despising her mother. She actively fought to protect her boys from Ida's poison. But in her desperate, lifelong attempt to survive Ida's emotional warfare, Lois accidentally downloaded her mother's exact operating system. Think about it. How does Ida control people? Through absolute fear, manipulation, and total emotional domination. Now look at Lois. How does she control the boys?
Mom, phone! Oh man, oh man! We're gonna die! That's it.
Every extreme punishment, every interrogation game she played with the boys, every time she completely looked through Dewey. It's not sitcom comedy. And we will talk about this in a few minutes. But what she fails to realize is that when Malcolm or Reese looks at her, they experience the exact same terror. And unfortunately for the boys, being raised by a traumatized dictator makes them the ultimate collateral damage.
I can't believe you, Dewey. How could you do this?
When is she going to stop? I'm starving.
This is where Lois's need for control stops being a coping mechanism and starts becoming actively destructive. There's a psychological concept called the glass child. It describes what happens to kids who grow up in a house so consumed by crisis or by siblings who require intense management that the parents literally look right through them. That's Dewey. That is his entire childhood. Dewey is just there. Nobody's priority.
Come on, hold hands, please. No, you're in the first grade. You're too big for that.
There are literal episodes where Dewey is so profoundly neglected that he talks to a fly or builds an entire fully functional piano out of household junk. And Lois doesn't even register his existence. But if Dewey is the invisible child, Malcolm is the weapon. Lois didn't force Malcolm into the Krellboyne class because she cared about his intellectual fulfillment. She did it because the second she realized he was a genius, she saw a financial lottery ticket. She completely stripped away his childhood. She isolated him from other kids and piled crushing expectations on his shoulders, expecting him to be the savior of the Wilkerson family. Every time Malcolm tries to just be a normal, happy teenager, Lois shuts it down. Because a happy Malcolm doesn't get them out of debt. And then there's Reese. This is the one that honestly breaks my heart on a rewatch. I know we are supposed to just view Reese as the brain-dead, violent bully of the show. But look at his environment. When your mother's only language of communication is screaming, punishment, and absolute domination, how else do you get her attention? Reese's extreme, escalating violence is a textbook, desperate cry for a mother to just look at him, to engage with him. And how does Lois respond? With more violence, with louder screaming. She meets his trauma with her trauma, constantly reinforcing the cycle that the only way to exist in this family is through warfare. And if you think her destroying their childhoods is bad, just wait until you see how she completely sabotages their only chance at a future. In the series finale, Malcolm gets a six-figure tech job offer.
Good enough for a 2-year contract anyway. Full benefits, stock options. We're talking 6 figures each.
It's the golden ticket. It is the exact thing that would instantly pull him, and by extension the entire family, out of the suffocating poverty they've been drowning in since episode 1. She actually rejects the 6-figure job offer for him in the middle of lunch without his permission, forcing him to work his way through Harvard as a janitor. She dresses it up as this grand, noble lesson. She tells him she's forcing him to struggle so he can become president of the United States.
Of a mid-sized state, and then you become president.
What?
Of the United States.
Because he needs to suffer, so he will be the only person in that position who actually gives a crap about people like us.
That doesn't matter. What does matter is you'll be the only person in that position who will ever give a crap about people like us.
But let's be honest, that's not a mother sacrificing for her son's future. That's a woman who is so profoundly addicted to the struggle, so dependent on her identity as the suffering matriarch, that she physically cannot let her son escape it. If Malcolm takes the money and fixes their lives, her war is over. And if her war is over, she loses her justification for absolute control. She needs him to suffer because her own suffering is the only language she speaks. When you really look at it, Lois Wilkerson isn't a hero holding a chaotic family together.
This is fantastic. I haven't understood a word you've said for the last 10 minutes.
Yeah.
She's a deeply traumatized woman holding her family hostage. And the worst part? We laughed at them for 7 years while she did it.